Welcome back, students. In the previous video, we have seen the three methods of asymmetric synthesis, that is by resolution, by using chiral pool, and by using chiral auxiliary. The fourth method and the last method of asymmetric synthesis is using chiral catalyst. Now, this method employs a chiral catalyst and a prochiral compound. Now, what is a prochiral compound? It becomes a chiral on a single transformation. What kind of compounds are prochiral compounds? Mostly these are alkenes, that is the sp2 hybridized carbons of the alkenes, the trigonal carbon, that is the sp2 hybridized, and the carbonyl groups, which become tetrahedral by the addition reaction. Carbonyl groups on the nucleophilic addition transform into a tetrahedral intermediate. Uh, Thereby, you can introduce a chirality in the molecule. Now let us look at some examples in this case. The first example is catalytic asymmetric reduction of ketones. Now if you were to use the normal reducing agent, that is your sodium borohydride, you will get alcohol, which is a chiral, obviously, because this is a prochiral compound, the carbonyl. It goes via tetrahedral intermediate in this case, but the resultant would be a racemic. That means you will get both the enantiomers of this particular alcohol. But if you were to use the asymmetric version of this reducing agent, or the asymmetric version of the sodium borohydride, you will end up with a chiral and plus a enantiomerically pure compound. So this is the chiral catalyst, which would introduce the chirality in the substrate in this case, which will not be introduced, which will influence. The right term would be the chiral influence. Chiral influence the chirality of the substrate, but in this case, we are not attaching anything to the substrate. In fact, the chirality influencer is the reagent in this case. One such example of the asymmetric reducing agent is the CBS catalyst. The name derives from the scientist uh, who have prepared this catalyst. The B stands for an Indian scientist, Bakshi. The others you can refer to the any organic chemistry textbook, the names of the other scientists. B here stands for Bakshi in this case. So CBS catalyst is a asymmetric catalyst used for the asymmetric synthesis. This is a chiral reducing agent, or the more general terms, it is a chiral catalyst. Now, this is a chiral borohydride analog. This is a chiral borohydride analog, and it is a stable boron heterocycle. Generally, you have heterocycles of oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur, but this is an heterocycle wherein you have one of the heteroatom as the boron, and it is derived from the proline, S-proline. There are many steps involved. You can refer to Claydon for further how this S-proline is converted to this CBS catalyst here. However, this is an inactivated form of the catalyst. It is activated only when you are adding the borane. And this borane is the actual hydride source in this case. The advantage of using this active reducing agent, or the chiral reducing agent, is that it is required only in 10%. So you get what is the overall reaction? You take a prochiral ketone, prochiral in the sense the single transformation. You are changing the planar structure here into a tetrahedral structure wherein you are introducing the chirality. And yield, you can see it is 99%, and the enantiomer excess is also at the higher level, that is 97% in this case. How this reaction proceeds, we'll see. Now, the hydride which is there, okay, So this is your chiral catalyst, in this case, the CBS catalyst. This is the basic nitrogen, and this is the Lewis acid boron atom. Why we are looking at this, we'll understand. Now we have to turn this reagent over, and you have to turn this reagent over. So this, if you rotate to 180 degrees, you will end up with this kind of structure, and you have to complex with the borane. Now, since this is a Lewis acid, the amino portion, it forms or donates its electrons to the borane and forms a complex. And whereas this is a Lewis acid, that means it has an empty p orbital. So the carbonyl oxygen which is there is donating itself to the p orbital, the electrons. So this is formed, and this hydride is delivered via six-membered cyclic transition state. This we have seen in the earlier cases also in the Evans aldol reaction. So similarly, you have a six-member cyclic transition state, and this six-member cyclic transition state imparts the enantioselectivity. Now, since what is the enantioselectivity? In such a way that this ketone is complexing with this boron and this boron in a way such that the smaller alkyl groups are at this position and the larger groups chose to be the equatorial positions away from this boron, because this is historically, if it is in the reverse or the opposite direction, that is, this larger substituents are at, RL stands for larger alkyl group. If it were at this pseudo axial position, this is a pseudo axial position, this is pseudo equatorial position, you think this is as a chair conformation of a cyclohexane ring, So it is orienting itself such that the preference for the larger substance is on this pseudo equatorial, so that it is maximum away from this uh, boron which is there. So as a result, because of this preferential orientation of this, you are getting a specific kind of the enantiomer in this case. Let us look this in a more 3D animated version. What I'll do, I'll click this hyperlink here, and it will take us to the browser window. Now you can see this pink color balls are the boron atoms. This is the nitrogen, this is oxygen, as you can see. And this borane is this particular borane, in this case boron, and this is borane. The white dots are the hydrogens. The hydrogen which is of importance here, which is getting or resulting in reduction of the carbonyl, is shown is a larger proportion. So all these white dots are nothing but the hydrogens in this case. And this is your CBCS catalyst. This is the proline portion of this, and this is the diphenyl portion. Or sorry, this is the proline portion of this. This is the proline portion of the CBS catalyst. What is happening in this case? We have seen there is this hydrogen transfer. First, the borane is complexing with the boron heterocycle here at this position. This is when the CBS catalyst is activated. Now we have seen that since the boron contains an empty p orbital, the oxygen donates itself onto the uh, empty p orbital, and simultaneously you have the simultaneously you have the transfer of the hydrogen in this case onto the carbonyl. Now this is done via a six-membered ring, six-membered transition state, six-membered transition state. If you were to look at this as a chair conformation, this is the chair conformation as this. Now, why the enantiomer selectivity is occurring is of due to this. So this is the larger substituent of the ketone and this is the smaller substituent of the ketone. Now it is oriented as such that this particular larger substituent is at the pseudo equatorial position. This is the pseudo equatorial position. This is the equatorial position and this is the axial pseudo axial position. The smaller substituent is at the pseudo preferential and this is preferentially at the pseudo equatorial position, because if this was here it would face a steric hindrance from this boron here, both these borons in this case. So as a result, what happens that when this is cleaved, once the reaction is complete via this, you get the hydrogen being added at this particular carbon because of the preferential orientation of larger groups away from this boron atoms. You are getting one particular kind of enantiomer. In this case, this is the R enantiomer. You will get the final product of this, which is an R enantiomer. Now, this is the classic case of your CIP rules here. Okay, so if I rotate this molecule, now this will be more clearer. So just a recap of the CIP, that is Kahn, Ingold, and log sequence rules. You are giving this as your first rank order. This is second rank order because the carbon is attached to a doubly bonded carbon. So it is equivalent to binding to three carbon atoms, 1, 2, and 3 here. And this carbon atom is attached to 4 or 3 other hydrogens. So this will be rank 3 and the hydrogen is away from you. Okay. So if you were to rank this will be 1, this will be 2, and this will be 3. So you are going from in a clockwise direction, and since the least priority group is away from you and you are going in a clockwise direction from the higher to the lower order rank substituent. So this is R isomer. One thing I've explained in the stereochemistry is that this is the condition only when the least priority group is away from you. So if it is towards you, as would be in this case, wherein you are having this particular. Now, I have not changed the connectivity of this particular. I have just rotated the molecule. I have not changed the oxygen hydroxy of this, broken this bond and kept it here and this going here. This methyl bond being broken and being attached here. I just rotated the molecule. Now, this is the case wherein the hydrogen is facing you. That is the least priority group is now facing you. So you have 1, again you have 2, and this is 3. Now you are going in this case in an anti-clockwise direction from the highest rank order subsequent to the lowest rank order. But since this is towards you, now since this is anti-clockwise and this is towards you, again this would be R. Okay. We are deviating slightly from our symmetric synthesis, but this is just a recap of how R and S isomers are defined with the help of 3D animation. Okay, we return back to the slide now. Okay. So this is how the CBS catalyze asymmetric reduction of ketones occurs due to preferential arrangement such as this larger group is away from the boron, it is having a specific kind of isomer being formed, enantiomer being formed. Now you can have this symmetric reduction using ruthenium metal. Now, the advantage of this ruthenium metal is that it is required in less than 1%. It is required in less than 1%. And it also requires a chiral ligand such as 1,3,5 trimethylbenzene, also known as mesitylene. This is a chiral ligand. Sorry, the chiral ligand is the diamine derivative in this case. The ruthenium is complex with the aromatic compound in this case, mesitylene. The ruthenium compound is complex with an aromatic compound in this case, which is mesitylene 1,3,5-methylbenzene, and it also requires a chiral ligand for the metal, which is we'll shortly see what this particular reagent is. And the hydrogen source itself can be the hydrogen, or it can be transfer hydrogen from isopropyl alcohol or the formic acid. Now, when you carry out a reduction of this particular, you get S enantiomer typically formed in more than 95% of yield, and also the enantiomeric excess is greater than 95%. So how this reaction is proceeding in this case? Now, the ruthenium catalyzed reduction of starts with this coordination of ruthenium catalyst with this particular chiral ligand. This is the SS diastereomer in this case, or the SS enantiomer. What is this chiral ligand? It is SS N-toluene, N-toluene sulfonyl, N-toluene sulfonyl, 1,2-phenyl or 1,2-phenylene diamine. Phenethylene is also called as phenylethylene, is also called as short form is phenylene. Phenylene. You write phenylene, it is same as phenylethylene. So this is phenylethylene diamine, is abbreviated as TSTPN. Now, the coordination of this particular ruthenium to the chiral ligand results in a 16 electron ruthenium complex. Now, this 16 electron complex you have seen in your catalysis chapter. Okay. Now, this 16 electron now can be reduced to form an 18 electron complex by either formic acid or H2 or isopropyl alcohol. In this case, we are using the formic acid. So it is adding the hydrogens here, and the ruthenium, it is forming this 18 electron complex here. Now, the ketone approaches in such a manner that the smaller methyl group which is there is tucked in under the ruthenium. Is tucked in under the ruthenium. Again, the larger group is oriented away from this. This may not be equivalent to a cyclohexane structure, okay? But this is the another conformation of the cyclohexane structure. In this case, the earlier case was a chair conformation. This is a slightly different conformation of the cyclohexane type of structure. This is not the exact cyclohexane, but this is again a 6-member complex being formed here. Okay. So hydrogen are getting transferred to this particular carbon and this particular carbon. Remember, the source of hydrogen here is a formic acid, and this results in the S enantiomer, and this catalyst which is there is regenerated. Let us look at the 3D version of this. So we'll click this link, hyperlink here, and it will take us to the browser window. The example here is shown a slightly different example, wherein you are not having any asymmetric ketone. This is a symmetric ketone, that is both the groups are methyl. In this case, this is an acetone. Nevertheless, you can still understand the concept here. And plus, the ruthenium catalyst also is not complex to the mesitylene. It is complex to the phosphine here. So what is happening here? This is this blue color, slightly different shade of blue is ruthenium. These are nitrogen, these are oxygen, and these are the uh, phosphorus things here. This is how the hydrogen transfer is taking place in this case. Now, if this were the orientation of ketone is as such that the larger group is oriented away from the ruthenium and the smaller groups are tucked in the near to the ruthenium. In this case, since this is symmetrical, this is not visible. But if this were any larger alkyl group, say benzene or a tertiary butyl, this would be away from here. And this is when you are using a chiral ligand, which is an SS type of chiral ligand. You'll get a complex here, which is slightly similar to a cyclohexane or different conformation of a cyclohexane. So this is how it would look, a different conformation of cyclohexane. Okay. Now, in the example shown on this slide, these groups were, or this coordination was with the mesitylene group here, and this is your chiral ligand here. So the smaller alkyl group would be orienting towards this, and the larger groups would be oriented towards this. This would result in the catalyst being regenerated, and you are getting the, in this case, it is not a chiral compound, but if it were having asymmetric ketone, that means you are having, when I say asymmetric ketone, it is with respect to the plane of symmetry, not as a asymmetric carbon or the chiral carbon in this case. That means the both alkyl groups are different in this case, but in this example, which is there, it is both are the same alkyl groups. But if it was a different, it would obviously come from this example. It is clear that it would result in one of the possible enantiomers which will be there. And this is there because you are using the SS form of the chiral ligand. We'll come back to the slide now. So the chirality enantioselectivity is due to this particular thing, that is, this is pointing away from the bulky ligands which are there. As a result, you are having S enantiomer in this case. Now we have seen two methods for reducing the carbonyl compounds in enantioselectivity. First was using CBS catalyst. First was using the CBS catalyst. So if this was the ketone wherein you have one group as the larger alkyl group and the RS denotes the smaller alkyl group here. So you will end up with this particular enantiomer. Now, if you are using, I was repeatedly stressing that this was the isomer, the earlier isomer you got was with the SS form of the chiral ligand, the SS form of the chiral ligand. If you use the other form of the chiral ligand, the stereochemistry is exactly reversed in this case. So the hydrogen addition mechanism would have been reversed. Mechanism in the sense the orientation of the ligands of that particular would have been reversed. So in a summary, if you're using SSPSDPN, you will end up with this particular enantiomer. What would be this? You are having hydrogen away from you. This is one. This is larger alkyl group. So I'm assuming this is second priority, and this is third priority. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is S enantiomer, which was the exact enantiomer which you got in the earlier case, that is the S enantiomer. And this is the R enantiomer because you are having 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 anti-clockwise, but the hydrogen is away from you, so this is R enantiomer. Now, the next example in asymmetric synthesis using chiral catalyst is catalytic asymmetric hydrogenation of alkenes. Now, hydrogenation of alkenes uses a different type of catalyst, which is a soluble complex, often ruthenium or rhodium with phosphine-containing ligands. Now, this is the Wilkinson catalyst. It is triphosphine uh, chlororuthenium, which is known as the Wilkinson catalyst. It is promoted homogeneous hydrogenation of alkenes. This is a homogeneous catalyst. It forms a soluble catalyst. You are having the hydrogen as the hydrogen source, and you are getting the reduction of this alkene. Now, this is again a prochiral ligand. The trigonal carbon of an alkene is a prochiral ligand. Single transformation, it transforms into a chiral structure. Okay. In this case, this is not, or this may not be a chiral thing because if this is CH and this is CH2, so when you add hydrogen, you get both as the hydrogens. Obviously, this carbon is not a chiral carbon. So, we'll come to the asymmetric part in the later part of the slides. First, let us understand how this Wilkinson catalyst works. Wilkinson catalyst is a 16 electron complex of rhodium, and it works as catalyst because it can easily lose one of its phosphine ligands. Can lose its to form 14 electron ruthenium complex. Uh, this must be rhodium here in this case. Now, when it undergoes dehydration of hydrogen here, and again forms a 16 electron complex here. Now, this complex is still coordinatively unsaturated. So, an alkene coordinatively unsaturated. So, an alkene can form a pi complex. In this case, then alkene forms a pi complex with full complement of the 18 electrons. So again, it is saturated now in this case. So, what happens is that there is next step is the migratory insertion of this hydrogen onto this alkene, followed by the reductive elimination of the complex, wherein the hydrogen is getting this particular complex is reduced, and you are having simultaneous elimination of hydrogen. So this is reductive elimination. Now, this is a simple Wilkinson catalyst, wherein it is not a chiral catalyst as such because there is no chirality involved in any of these structures here, any of the catalyst structures here. But if you were to replace these phosphines with some chiral phosphines such as BINAP, this would what would this particular chiral BINAP would do? It will be a preferential orientation of this forming of pi complex. So S BINAP would allow a certain orientation of this alkene here. That means that is this migrating insertion. These three steps are important when you are considering the asymmetric hydrogenation. So migrating insertion of one of the hydrogen followed by the reductive elimination. So when you there is a conceptual advancement of this sort of hydrogenation. We have seen that if you replace the phosphine groups with a chiral alkyl phenyl groups, wherein one of the phenyl groups here the phosphine of this phosphine is replaced with the binaptyl group here, and this is sterile because there is uh, rotation of this bond is hindered. We have seen this example several times. This is a chelating diphosphine. The metal, any metal, rhodium or ruthenium, sits between, firmly anchored between the chiral environment. Now, because of this chiral environment, how the metal is forming the pi complex, the metal is forming the pi complex with the alkene is differed. So depending on the configuration of the binap, that is, if you are starting with R, you will get a certain enantiomer. If you are getting S, starting with using S binap, you will get a certain type of enantiomer in this case. So let us look at an example of this. So this is an allylic carboxylic acid. So ruthenium instead of rhodium, if you're using ruthenium instead of rhodium, it broadly broadens the scope of the substrate. So you can use a variety of substrate. In this case, so you can see if you are using R binap in this case, the alkene is oriented such that the hydrogens are adding on the top face of the alkene, and in case of S, the hydrogens are added on the bottom face of the alkene. So unsaturated carbolic acid and allylic alcohols, you can have the same type of orientation. This particular hydroxy is required for the coordination with the ruthenium. This particular hydroxy is required for the coordination with the ruthenium metal. S-naproxen and citronellal are uh, synthesized using this chiral catalyst here. This is S-binap, S-binap you are using, and you are having great enantiomeric excess, and that is more than 98%. Citronellal is used in perfumery. It is an terpenoid again, which is the essential oil, type of an essential oil. The last example in the asymmetric synthesis using chiral catalyst is Sharpless asymmetric epoxidation. This is epoxidation. What is an epoxidation? You have an alkene. When you react with an peroxide, you get a formation of a three-membered ring. One of the atom of that three-membered ring in is oxygen. So in this, it is involving epoxidation with tertiary. What is the peroxide source here? This is the peroxide source, that is tertiary butyl hydroperoxide. And you need to add an chiral ligand. In this case, if you have to have a specific enantiomer being formed, or specific orientation of that epoxide ring to be formed. Now, the chiral ligand in this case is diethyl tartrate. For this example, we have used the positive enantiomer, that is the dextrorotatory. Again, this specifies that this would be, this L is of the Fisher notation L. This is nothing to do with the Leo and dextrorotatory sense of the optical activity which is there. The plus sign indicates the optical activity, that means it rotates the plane of the polarized right towards right. So this is dextrorotatory. However, the Fisher notation of this particular this thing, Fisher projection notation, is L. So you need not confuse between the capital L and capital D and small n, small d. Small d and L is with respect to the optical activity, and capital L and capital D is with respect to the orientation of the groups of the bottommost chiral center. Now, coming back to the asymmetric example, asymmetric synthesis example here, that is Sharpless asymmetric oxidation. You have a chiral ligand, and the catalyst here in this case is titanium tetraisotopoxide. So complex of this chiral ligand and this catalyst will form a chiral catalyst in this case. Now, this is limited to only allylic alcohols. Only allylic alcohol transition state, transition metal catalyzed reactions are only limited to the allylic alcohol in this case. Now, this may look slightly complex here, but if you look at it in a close manner, it is very simple in this case. What is happening in this active complex? It is a complex of a dimer that is there of this titanium or isopropoxide. See the red bonds are the bonds of the isopropoxide. So it forms this dimer complex by losing two of its isopropyl groups, isopropoxy groups in this case, and forms a complex with the chiral tartric acid, diethyl nitrate, in this case, diethyl tartrate here. And this is the hydroxy of that titrate, which is one of the hydroxy coordinated to the titanium, the other hydroxy of the uh, titanium. So this is now when you add a tertiary butyl hydroperoxide, what happens that it is replacing one of the isopropoxy group here. So oxidizing agent, when it is this is shown in green, is added to the mixture. It displaces one of the remaining isopropoxide ligands and one of the tartrate carbonyl here. Now the allylic alcohol becomes coordinated to the titanium. Displacing allylyl alcohol becomes coordinated to the titanium in such a manner that it is further displacing one of the isopropoxy group. Now, the structure of the complex is such that the oxygen can be added from the bottom face. You can see from the bottom face of the alkene here. So the structure of the complex makes it that in this case it is shown as this is nothing but the carboxyl group, ester group here is shown as E, not to be confused where this E is coming from. This is just for the clarity. CO2 group at the back simplified to E for clarity. Now oxygen is delivered, as you can see, to the bottom of this alkene bottom face. Let us look this in a 3D animation perspective. So I'll browse, go to the browser window here. You can see this is the structure we have seen here. This is R stands for any alkyl groups. It is in general, it is shown. When you click this is how the structure of the complex is such that the oxygen is available for attack from the bottom. You can see how it is attacking. The lone pair of the oxygen is attacking one carbon, and the pi electrons is again adding on to the oxygen here. It is forming an epoxide, and it is attacking such that the oxygen added on the bottom face of the alkene here. It is attacking the bottom face. This slightly different shade of blue is titanium. These are oxygen, and this part is of your allylic oxygen. Okay. We'll look at the other complex here. This is one of the transition state here. You can see the oxygen being added on the bottom face, and you finally get This is the isomer when you are using the dextrorotatory form of diethyl tartrate here. If you were to use the other form of the diethyl tartrate, that is the levorotatory or the D form, the epoxide formation would be from the above uh, molecular complex would be such that the epoxide would be formed, the oxygen would have been added from the above phase of the top phase of the alkene in this case. We'll return back to the slide now. As I've said, using D-tartrate, it is possible to produce the other enantiomer of the epoxide equally selectively, but it is rarer and more expensive. Again, the L-tartrate is obtained naturally. It is a form of the chiral pool, and D-tartrate you will have to synthesize that, so it is quite expensive. But still, the D-tartrate would give you the other enantiomer. That means the oxygen being added on the top face of the. So if this is the plane of the alkene, when you are using the dextrorotatory form, that is the L form, capital L form of the diethyl tartrate, it delivers the oxygen to the bottom face of the alkene, whereas the D or the levorotatory form delivers the oxygen on the top face of the alkene. So this completes your chapter for asymmetric synthesis. Just a summary of main methods for asymmetric synthesis. So first method is resolution. We have seen both enantiomers are available. That is the major advantage, that in a one go we are getting both E enantiomer, that is R and S enantiomer. However, the maximum yield for single enantiomer will be 50%. Obviously, the example is synthesis of BiNAP in this case. The next method was chiral pull. Here you can achieve 100% enantiomeric excess. That means only one type of enantiomer is formed. That is because you are starting with the enantiomerically pure compound, and that compound is also easily available. So it is not an expensive method. But this again, the advantage or itself is a disadvantage, that only one enantiomer is available. The other enantiomer you will have to synthesize using mainly from higher priced or expensive chiral material, as you have seen in the case of this example, wherein the S-valine was readily available to form the or the sorry, the S-isoleucine was readily available. S-leucine was readily available, and R-leucine was very expensive, so you use pseudoephedrine. I think it was valine. The point here I wanted to make is that you get 100% enantiomeric express. This starting chiral pool is readily available. But if you were to make the other enantiomer instead of which is available from the chiral pool, it is slightly expensive. Now the next method is chiral auxiliary. Often excellent enantiomeric excess you can have can crystallize, purify high enantiomeric excess. But however, this is a sort of protection and deprotection which you have seen in the peptide synthesis, which lengthens the procedure. So extra steps to introduce and remove the auxiliary you are having. And examples you have seen the formation from the oxazolidinones, that is the chiral auxiliary we have seen, we are talking about in this case. The last method is chiral catalyst. It is quite economical because only a small amount of recyclable materials is required. We have seen from the ruthenium catalyst, wherein it is required in less than 1%. However, the scope of the reaction using this kind of chiral ligand is very few, and recrystallization can only improve already high in enantiomeric excess, which is there. So the examples are asymmetric hydrogenation and epoxidation and dihydroxylation. This part we have not seen, but you can refer to the Claydon organic chemistry by Claydon. This example is after the Sharpless asymmetric epoxidation, and it is on the similar lines on this. This completes your asymmetric synthesis.